Hi, Doug. This is Corey. I figured it'd be easier just to record a video and answer your questions simply because typing takes a lot longer and it would probably be just easier to answer them back and forth with you. So let me know if you like this format. If you don't, I can go back and start typing if you like again. But I'm going to read your question and just respond with it with an answer. So the last email you sent me, and I did respond back to you via the messenger, but I'll also respond back to the same question with this video. But you say, thank you, nice job. Let me see. You ask questions. You said, short term, Bitcoin is in the process of vaulting up. My personal opinion of Jamie Dimon's statement of that Bitcoin is a fraud, just his way of trying to keep a lid on it until his bank could position itself to take advantage. So I I agree with you. I think that he is, but I also think that, like I mentioned in my message I sent to you, he doesn't want to support something and put his face on something that isn't backed. He doesn't want to be the face of this if investors, his customers, go to Bitcoin and all of a sudden it collapses. So I think he has a valid point to be cautious. I would too if I was in his position. And as I mentioned in my paper, I think it's a stretch to call it fraud. Um, and I believe there's fraudulent people in this market, of course, but there's also people in this market who believe in the technology, and somewhere you're going to meet between the two. The same way people use a dollar for frivolous things and bad intentions. Same thing that's happening with cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin in particular. So I don't know if he's using it for his bank to take advantage of it because he's not the first one to the game. There's other companies in front of him. But I do think that he's taking a cautious approach and trying to steer his traditional methodology of banking away from it simply because it's so risky and it's not backed by anything. And I would too, to be honest, if I was him. Um, is it a bubble? Your opinion is yes, but the reality is there is a finite amount of Bitcoin in high demand. Has only one way to go, and that's up. And I agree with you, which is why I'm buying and buying and buying. But I don't think it's a bubble, and I think that it's going to replace. It's not going to replace gold because banks will use gold and countries will use gold. But the average person like me and you would assume, and we don't have gold bars sitting in our vaults at home. So this is a way that the common man can hold some kind of value that we all share around the globe, similar to gold. So yes, it might replace gold in some ways, but I think countries will continue to maintain a gold, and as well as multinational organizations will maintain gold as well. But we will see individuals, personal use of Bitcoin to kind of keep that same standard at an individual level. It's not going to replace gold, but it will help economies and governments that are struggling with inflation, like Venezuela, for instance. Different countries like in Africa, I think Zimbabwe also faced a crisis recently, and new leadership at the realm. Countries that are suffering this turmoil will have a way to keep their funds safe without having to rely on local government, and that's the reason why this will not go away. And even if governments put in measures to fight it, like China did already, it's going to bounce back because this is global. It will take a global initiative. And in today's world, unfortunately, we don't have consensus around the globe. There's this chaos, and it will take a global force to stop this. And I don't think that we're going to see that anytime soon. And therefore, I think the bubble is going to be, if there is a bubble, it's going to be pushed far back. But um, the bubble will come if the technology behind it starts to fail. And that's the point that I made in my message to you, is that if the encryption standards that are used in Bitcoin start to become old or obsolete is the right word, you're going to see people run. And that's when you will see people run. But then again, there will be, in the second point you made, an alternative coin that fixes that encryption problem. And then we go to the next one. So I do think that there is a potential that there is going to be a bubble, but this is not going to be anything in the short term, which is here. And I agree with you. It's going to go up because it's finite. Problem with Bitcoin is that it cannot handle the volume of transactions its popularity will demand. As a result, the several other altcoins, copycats, will come into place. Yes, and this is to the point that people try to use Bitcoin as a currency, which it should not be used as a currency simply because it's a horrible currency. It takes up tons of energy. It's expensive. The transactions are expensive. and it doesn't have consensus. Certain times it could be less, sometimes it could be more. I purchased Bitcoin recently on Coinbase, and it took my order to transfer from Coinbase to another trading site a good 5 hours. So it's not fast, it's not efficient, it doesn't have consensus, it doesn't have these things that it needs for it to be a good currency. Therefore, I don't use it as a currency. I use it as an asset. I invest into it. I keep it for long term. It's something that continues to grow and hold its value, and that's how I see it. So, yes, it's horrible currency, but it's a great asset at this point in time. Bitcoin copycats. There's been copycats in the past, and I mentioned it. Bitcoin Cash is a big one. A couple months ago, Bitcoin Cash made a tremendous run. Bitcoin lost most of its power to mine, which is how transactions are approved, because all of these miners switched sides. They said, hey, we want these features and you're not giving it to us, so we're going to go behind Bitcoin Cash. And at one point, Bitcoin Cash spiked. And if you look at the history and the charts, you'll see Bitcoin Cash started about 600, I believe, and went to about 1,500 in a matter of a couple hours, a couple days. That was the war, and that's what they call it. It was the war at that time. And we were unsure exactly which way it would go, and we saw that at the end, Bitcoin won. You can look at the charts and they show, but there's always going to be new copycats coming because Bitcoin forks. Whenever there's something, an error or idea come out and they want to try something different, Bitcoin forks, and you're going to have continuous competition. And there's an idea that these forks that you see will overcome Bitcoin at some point, but that has yet to be seen, and that could definitely be a possibility. So if you want a copycat, look no further than the forks. The three forks that I would look at is Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Gold, which has happened, which has been relatively under the radar, and then Bitcoin Diamond, which fork happened in November. I think November 25th it happened. Those are the copycats. There's also some, I guess you would call them secure coins or anonymous coins, where the hashes are also hidden. So Monero is a big one. Monero, if you look at the growth of Monero, has been crazy. Dash is another one, crazy. Zcash is another coin that's traded that way. These coins are similar to Bitcoin, but they're a little bit more used for nefarious reasons. So trading on the black market and such, because people can trade it anonymously. But they do copy Bitcoin standard, and I do believe that Bitcoin, as well as Litecoin, which mimics Bitcoin, will embrace those same types of technologies at some point. So it'll give a run for those coins. Hope that answers your question. For the short term, I'm going to open another video because this is getting kind of long for the intermediate and long-term questions that you pose. Thank you.